Hello everyone, Zach here to share a tasty and healthy raw vegan recipe. In the past decade or so, the commercial industry producing nut milks, a variety of nut milks, has become extremely popular among health connoisseurs, vegans, as well as people that just enjoy the flavor of them. I hear more and more people bring up that they drink coconut milk or almond milk or things like that, or even the more exotic ones like hemp milk. And it's always a moment where I'm like, right on, that's a healthy thing. You should be consuming that. That's good for you. But it also kind of saddens me that more people are not avid about producing this themselves, because it's just about the easiest thing you could do. And when you produce it at home, it's going to be so much healthier, especially because you can make it raw, where when you are cooking the nuts, you're going to degrade some of the minerals and also break down the enzymes and the omega acids and things like that. So there's a lot of benefit to just keeping your nut milk raw. And I understand a lot of people are intimidated or find it difficult to produce the more exotic or complex dishes, but raw nut milk is one that really anybody can implement into their diet. So all you really need is a handful of ingredients. I'm going to turn the computer. The important thing, though, that is possibly going to make it difficult for some people is you do want to have a pretty good blender. I think a cheap blender could probably do it, but it really varies a lot depending on what nut you're using. Today I'm going to be using Brazil nuts, but the same recipe can be used with really any nut, really. It's just that when you get the more dense and the really hard fiber nuts like almonds, it seems like you're going to get a little bit more grit if you have a cheap blender. I'm going to be using a Vitamix for this, and that can pretty effectively break down any nut. The only variations in the recipe are you could potentially strain out the fiber if you wanted, and then use the pulp to make raw cookies and things like that. And I'll share some recipes with that sometime in the future. But I generally just keep all the fiber in the milk when I drink it, and that's what I'll be doing today. And Brazil nut is a pretty ideal one to do that with, because Brazil nuts break down into an absolutely creamy perfection when you blend it. So, alrighty, let me see if I can move this right. Okay, so we've got a half a cup. Well, first of all, everything is organic and raw. Well, the vanilla extract I'm choosing to use may not be raw. It's definitely organic, but ideally I would use vanilla powder. I just don't have any of that here. I have that at the office. So half a cup of organic raw Brazil nuts. We have organic vanilla extract, which I'm going to be shooting for about a quarter of a teaspoon to make it really richly vanilla-y. With the vanilla bean powder raw, I would say probably about the same. You maybe use a quarter of a teaspoon or an eighth of a teaspoon even with the powder. I've got raw organic coconut nectar, which is just about the healthiest sweetener outside of using dates, which straight dates to me seems to get processed the absolute best. Then I've got salt. Today I'm going to be using red Hawaiian Elea salt, which is rich in clay, so it has extra iron and more diverse minerals, or at least a different spectrum of diverse minerals than other salts. So I try to mix it up with using different salts at different times, and I really enjoy this Hawaiian Elea. It's quite salty, though, so you don't want to use too much. I'll just be adding a sprinkle. Cayenne pepper, again, organic and raw. This might seem like an odd thing to add to nut milk, and a lot of people might want to just go ahead and not use that. I would suggest at least a tiny sprinkle for the health benefits. The expansion of the blood vessels caused by the consumption of capsaicin, which is the active compound inside of hot peppers, helps to increase the absorption of medicinal as well as nutritional compounds. So it's good to make things a little bit spicy. Sometimes I'll go with a kind of very spicy nut milk, but usually not. I usually just add a little sprinkle. Sheila heat. This is one of the ingredients that is available in our Eternity in a Box store. This is a superfood supplement, which I'll just make a video, I guess, describing it more in depth another time. But it's probably the most profound mineral supplement on the planet, in my opinion. Completely natural. It comes from the Himalaya mountains, and it is refined in a traditional Ayurvedic process. With this, we're just going to be adding a very small amount, probably a quarter of a teaspoon or so. And then we've got water. We're going to be adding, this is a quart of water, so 946 milliliters. The goal is to end up with about 1 whole liter of the nut milk. So, all we do is, let's see if we're set up here. All I'm going to do is add all these ingredients. Add the nuts, tiny sprinkle of the salt, tiny bit of the vanilla extract. With the sweetener, this is one that is just to your own taste preference. If you make the nut milk right with good quality ingredients, it really doesn't even need to be sweetened. But on this instance, I'm going to add a little bit of this, maybe probably about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit less. Add the sacred shilajit. And with the shilajit, all I have is a teaspoon here, but it's not very much. It's extremely potent stuff. The active amount to use per day is about 1 gram. So I normally use near half a gram per use, and I consume shilajit several times daily. The cayenne pepper, I don't want it to be too spicy, but I don't mind feeling a little bit of heat, so I'm going to go right about that. And then the water. Oh, and water quality is definitely an important aspect. I highly suggest using only clean spring water or perhaps some kind of distilled or reverse osmosis processed water. Tap water is kind of sad to add to all these organic, raw, healthy ingredients. So, all right, then we're just going to blend on high for probably about a minute. That should do it. So go ahead and pour a little bit here. The color is fairly white. If you notice, it's a little bit darker than what you would see in commercial nut milk. That's mainly because of the addition of the shilajit. I used the black shilajit. We also offer a brown variety, which would have altered the color a little bit less. But I'm not really trying to make a perfect, bleached white color drink. That doesn't really do much for me. So, all right. Make sure it came out good. And of course, always express gratefulness before consuming, whether you are thanking some spiritual source or whether you're just experiencing gratefulness as a root human emotion. I greatly encourage this as a means of preparing your biochemistry for the consumption, as well as a means of psychologically training ourselves to be grateful for things in life, which is ultimately going to minimize stress and things like arrogance and disharmonious personality traits. So, freaking wonderful. Enjoy, guys.